Hey guys, it's Shannon from That DIY Couple, and this is a video about the preparation, both mental and physical, and the stuff that you need to prepare for an amazing home birth. A little under 2 weeks ago, I delivered our first child, our daughter Ellie, here at home in this very room. This is the chalkboard wall where I wrote my positive affirmations. And right here next to me, we set up a birthing tub and we had a beautiful water birth. It was 36 hours of unassisted labor, and she came into this world in the most amazing and beautiful way. And it's actually going to be covered on the Lifetime channel tonight, her birth story. So we're really super excited about that. But I wanted to make a quick video just explaining some of the preparation that we did and some of the products that we found essential to securing a successful home birth. So the very first thing that you're going to want to do is think about the mental preparation that you need to have your baby at home. So I'm just going to assume that you've already cleared this with your OBGYN or your doctor, and that you've had a normal pregnancy and that you're a good candidate for home birth insofar as you haven't had any complications like gestational diabetes or anything else that would preclude you from giving birth at home, including that you live close enough to an emergency room that you could transfer with no issues. So let's make that assumption. The next thing is to prepare yourself mentally. So after going through this experience, I firmly believe that this was the most important aspect of my preparation for the home birth, was getting my head screwed on in the right way and filling it with positive home birth stories and positive birth stories in general about unmedicated labor, because so often the narrative is so negative around birth that it was essential for me to sort of flip the switch and realize that this could be a wonderful and beautiful thing. So the thing that I recommend doing is a hypnobirthing course. Hypnobirthing sounds a lot more crunchy than I think it is. It doesn't have anything to do with hypnosis, but it's really about teaching you about how your body works, what's going to happen during the course of your delivery, and how to prepare your mind to go through this thing, because the body is willing and able, but I think the mind sometimes gets us tripped up. So I really enjoyed the hypnobirthing course from the Positive Birth Company, which is based out of the UK. I did their digital pack and was able to do it at home. I watched it with John. It was extremely helpful. It taught me all about my anatomy and what happens during a contraction, or as they call it in hypnobirthing, a surge, and how I could do meditations and frame things in order to help me through this really difficult thing called birth. The next thing you want to do is you want to assemble your team. So I would not have been able to do this without the assistance of our doula. She was amazing. So the components of, I think, of a successful home birth team include 2 certified nurse midwives. There are different types of midwives in the United States, and the certified nurse midwife is kind of the highest level of schooling and education. That's what I did, and that's what I would recommend. But one is for you and one is for the baby. So it's either your certified nurse midwife and an assistant, or 2. But for me, it was 2, and that worked out really well. But I think even more important to getting me through it was our doula. So a doula is a person who is not a medical professional, but is a birthing professional. So the doula is there for your emotional support, and also oftentimes serves as a lactation consultant. So the doula explained it to me that everything from the boobs and up belongs to her, and from below the boobs and down belongs to the certified nurse midwife, which I thought was a really good way of explaining it. So she was responsible for keeping my head in the game, for keeping me focused, for keeping me calm, for being my sort of cheerleader and coach, and also for assisting me with lactation after the birth. And the certified nurse midwife was responsible for making sure that the baby was in the right place, making sure that I was progressing, monitoring the baby's heart rate and things like that, and used a lot of instruments and things like of that nature to sort of make sure that I was having a safe delivery. So highly recommend getting a doula and birthing at home with the medical assistance of a certified nurse midwife. So the other thing you're going to want to do before you have the baby is figure out which pediatrician you're going to go to and check your insurance coverage for your home birth. So whether or not your insurance is going to cover this may be a little bit dicey, but you can advocate for yourself and you can make the argument that you're saving them a lot of money by not giving birth in the hospital. So push for yourself and attempt to get your insurance to cover it. And figure out which pediatrician you're going to go to afterwards. They won't probably let you make an appointment until the baby is actually born, but you're going to want to get the baby into the pediatrician within 24 to 48 hours in order to do certain tests that are not done typically during a home birth. So as part of that conversation, you need to ask your certified nurse midwife what tests he or she is going to do and compare that to a list of tests that are typically done at the hospital, and then talk to your pediatrician about how you can get the excess things. So for me, that involved getting, for example, they typically at the hospital do a breathing test and a hearing test, but those weren't conducted by the certified nurse midwife. I was able to do things like get a vitamin K shot, which is important for the baby's blood clotting ability. All babies are born very deficient in vitamin K. I was able to get like a hepatitis B shot for the baby. I was able to get antibiotics administered if you're what's called group B strep positive. I was able to get the ointment that they typically apply to the baby's eyes if I wanted it. And so you want to ask what's missing from what they typically do at the hospital, and then talk to your pediatrician about how to get those things done for your baby within the time periods that are recommended. For our pediatrician, they weren't used to doing home births, so she actually had to do some research. So it's a conversation you want to have beforehand. So the next couple of items are like more physical things that you need to get in order. If you want to have the possibility of doing a water birth, which I highly recommend, was fantastic for me, you're going to want to order yourself a birthing pool. And I'll leave links to all of these items in the description box. But I loved having the bigger birthing pool. There's two sizes, which I'll link both. One is sort of like an individual size, and one is intended for two people. John actually never got into the birthing pool with me. I think we thought that he probably would, but it wasn't, I was kind of taking up the whole thing. I'm 6'1", and the bigger one worked really well for me. And in the moment of labor, I preferred him, I think, outside assisting me than inside with me. You want to set up the birthing pool and order it well in advance of your labor so that you can make sure that it fits in the space that you want to deliver, and also make sure that you have all of the items that you need, including accessories that don't come with it. So you want to have a plan as to how you're going to fill it up, because it'll take you forever if you're using buckets to fill it up, and it's much easier to have a long enough hose connected to a faucet or a bathtub or something like that to be able to fill it. So you want to order the appropriate length hose that you need, and also an adapter in order to run your hose from the nearest faucet. The other thing that you're going to want to have on hand are lots of towels and or rags, and really good sanitizer and cleaning products. So the business of bringing a baby into the world is messy, and you're going to bleed a lot. It's like, just not even talking about hemorrhaging, but just like, for example, the delivery of the placenta is messy. The birthing pool, I will not lie, looked like the elevator from The Shining after I was done with it. So you're gonna wanna have a lot of rags, and I would strongly recommend ordering a waterproof mattress protector that you put on your bed like a month before you give birth, just in case your water breaks, or if you wanna recover in your bed, you're gonna be sort of oozing liquids for the foreseeable future. In tandem with that, I would recommend ordering some very sexy, like, lady adult diapers, and preparing yourself what's called a padsicle, which you can insert into your sexy adult diapers. It's basically just a huge maxi pad smothered with witch hazel, which is a natural disinfectant, and a aloe vera or lidocaine solution, which you make several of those. I would probably make about 12 at least, and pop them into the freezer. And you'll be really glad afterwards because you're going to have some vaginal soreness. You might have a perineum tear. So you'll be really happy to have those because they provide a lot of cooling comfort in the aftermath after delivery. Okay, so the other thing that you might want to consider if you're going to have a water birth is to get some plastic covering. I would just get a paint plastic covering that you can get at like a Home Depot or a Lowe's, but that'll help protect your floors in case you have some spillage. The next thing you're going to want to think about are the environmental factors. So I had these beautiful tea lights, which I really loved. There's an idea that women used to give birth in the dark, and that melatonin, the body's sort of sleep-inducing hormone, is really instrumental in helping your body produce the oxytocin that's necessary for the uterus to contract and give birth. And so being in a low light setting, including having light blocking curtains and things like that, is really helpful for birth. And so these like beautiful fairy lights were wonderful for me. I also loved writing my birth affirmations on the wall. I was able to position them in a way that I was able to look up at them during labor. And my favorite one says, 6 million years of human ancestors, 200,000 years of Homo sapiens, 6,000 years of civilization, 200 years of industrialized society, 80 years of modern hospital births. Your body's got this. And it was just sort of to reflect and remind me of how long human history is and how so many women before me have given birth in less than ideal circumstances and not in a hospital, and how the concept of giving birth in a hospital is actually a relatively new phenomenon. The other thing that you might want are some candles, although be careful with, fire safety. And some people like essential oils. I enjoyed sniffing peppermint and having like a lavender diffuser going. You also want to think about adequate seating around the birthing tub or the place that you're going to give birth for the number of people that are going to be in the room. So poor John was squatting almost the entire birth, and only in the last hour did somebody offer him a seat. All the seats were occupied by the midwife and doula and stuff, and so he was offered a bucket towards the end, and he said that was like the most amazing thing, was just to be able to sit on the bucket. So you want to have adequate seating, and you might want to write your affirmations around or print them out or have them on cards, and also set up a music or playlist for any, hypnobirthing meditations or regular meditations or music that you'd like to listen to. During the early part of labor, you're going to really want to get your oxytocin flowing to get the contractions going. So anything that you can do that's going to be comfortable for you, that's going to make you feel good, like listening to your favorite songs, is going to be super helpful. The next thing you want to do is talk to your midwife about your pain relief options. So a lot of people like using what's called a TENS machine, which sends like an electrical impulse on your back and can kind of help divert your attention away from the contractions. My midwife did something really cool, which was she just pressed really hard right here between my two eyes, in what she was calling my third eye, and she said, look at me, pay attention to that pressure point. Don't pay attention to the contractions. And that was like very helpful for focusing my attention away from the pain that was happening in my uterus towards this one pressure point. So pressing there was was great pain relief for me. I also took 2 Benadryl during the transition period, which was like the hardest period. And I think that helped sort of just calm me down. And then you want to make sure that your birth partner, be it a doula or whoever is accompanying you at the birth, is well-versed in what's called light touch massage, which is basically just, in my family, we call chicken skin, because when you do it, it causes your skin to stand on it. But it's basically just like a very gentle way of caressing your body that increases oxytocin production and feels really good during labor. So you also want to consider your food plan. So I had my husband bring like dark chocolate and things that I thought I might crave during birth. It turns out I didn't crave any food and was unable to keep it down. But I was really happy that I had prepared a week's worth of healthy food prior to the delivery. You also want to ask your midwives and doula if they have any dietary preferences, and if you are sort of expected to feed them. I would have stuff on hand to offer them because they're going to be there for a long time. Finally, you want to consider your communication plan. You want to make sure that your team knows your birth plan, and there's going to come a point in your labor where you're almost certainly going to beg for an epidural or be taken to the hospital. And the important thing to keep in mind is that when you get to that point, it's when you're almost rounding a corner, and you want to affirmatively tell them, if this is indeed what you want, that if you ask for those things, to push back and to keep you on your plan. Finally, you want to figure out your family's involvement and the level of communication and knowledge, because as soon as you text people that you're going into labor, your phone is going to be blowing up. So you want to figure out whether or not that's something that you want, or you want to kind of keep people in the dark until the baby actually arrives. But these are all my tips for a positive, These are all of my tips for a very positive birth experience and a very positive home birth experience. I'll leave links to all of the items that I've talked about in the description box, and I'm wishing you all a very healthy and positive birth experience. No matter how it turns out, you're gonna be fine. And at the end of the day, you are gonna have a beautiful and gorgeous baby to enjoy and cuddle with. So thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, do well and always make things better.